I am Diane Michael, owner of Callan Group, otherwise sometimes known as Digital Di. I began my business development and marketing and outreach career in 1999. And more importantly for today, I began working with CAMs, Community Association Managers, in 2014. There's a local group called BAM of Volusia that's here. That's the Building Association Managers. And in 2014, 10 years ago, it's crazy, they contacted me and asked me to do a marketing presentation to their group. And through that, I developed clients that were vendors. I developed friends that were CAMs and also management groups as clients. And through one of the vendors, I got to meet this special woman, Lindsay Lombardi.
Hello, glad you all could join us today. As Diane said, my name is Lindsay Lombardi. I have been in the construction and real estate world my whole life. My family always worked in different real estate and construction industries while I was growing up. And then when we moved here to Florida, well, to the beach side anyway, my father started Coastal Living Real Estate, and I got my license to do real estate in 2013 and have worked with him since then. I have also, since 2016, had my CAM license. Since I've been a CAM, I've worked with several corporate association management firms, as well as a family-owned firm, worked with the properties directly. And now I have started my own CAM firm, Coastal Living Association Management, which I started late last year.
Thank you, Lindsay. And I just want to make sure that I have enabled the waiting room. Okay, good. Sorry. Okay. One of the things that I love about Lindsay too is that Lindsay has worked for a corporate management company. She's worked with a family-run management company. She's been a sole CAM on property, and now she owns her own business. So her vantage points of marketing to CAMs is very unique. And one of the reasons that I teamed up with her to start doing webinars for vendors. Okay, business is more and more challenging every day. We all know this. Technology is rapidly changing. Your demographic is changing. A lot of our clients' customers are dying. So we have to fill in those gaps, and we have to have a strategy and a plan on how to continually bring more business in. Good help is really hard to find. And that's another reason that Lindsay and I decided to roll out this program more extensively, is because we understand and have the experience and the knowledge that's needed to market to CAMs. Asking someone in your office to take on these tasks without experience doesn't always work. We also see that it's more expensive all the time to market, to use marketing companies, to use platforms. And so we have created this affordable option. So strategy is the solution. Work smarter, not harder. We all know that old adage. And that is why we believe that vendors should target CAMs. CAMs become a great sales force for vendors. And I'm hoping that, Lindsay, you can kind of just talk briefly about a day in the life of a CAM and what it looks like right now, what you're seeing from vendors trying to market and to get in with you.
Sure. So obviously we're all busy. CAMs are very busy. It really depends on what your portfolio looks like. There are some CAMs that work directly with properties, and those CAMs are going to be at one property all day or half the day, depending on what their office time looks like. And then portfolio CAMs, which you see the most of, especially through management firms, are going to be CAMs who work from an office for their company or themselves, and then they manage multiple properties. So those properties could be HOAs, they could be condominium associations, sometimes they're commercial buildings. And so during their day, they're going to be visiting different properties, checking in on employees at those properties, meeting with vendors for the properties. And then also they're going to be working with the board members to get bids on projects that are coming up and those types of things, in addition to answering a multitude of emails and phone calls from homeowners and board members. So in the state of Florida, they estimate that there's 22,000 licensed community association managers, in addition to about 1,800 licensed CAM firms. So that's important for you all as vendors to know, because if you take one CAM, who, if they're a portfolio CAM, manages between 10 to 12 associations, some are condos, some are HOAs. So within that, you have 10 to 12 boards that you're working with, and potentially anywhere between 50 to 1,200 individual homeowners within those associations. So the CAM is a great source for vendors, because you have the ability to not only work with the CAM, potentially bring you 8 to 12 clients for various projects or monthly maintenance work that is done on the property. In addition, if the CAMs have a good relationship with the homeowners in that community, and a homeowner needs a roof or a landscaper, or they're doing a large project at their home, they might go to the CAM and say, hey, who do we use for landscaping, or who do you recommend for this, or what roofer did we use when we did the community building, or who resurfaced the pool at the clubhouse. So you also have the ability to reach all the individual homeowners. And CAMs have a difficult time getting to know vendors on a personal basis if they're not vendors that they're using at a specific property that they have at that time. So that's where we're bringing in this webinar ability for you all to be able to get the CAMs to know who you are and your business.
And help me to understand when vendors are marketing to you, because what I'm seeing is one-offs. There's a few legal firms, and one of their marketing people is on here, I see, who does an excellent job at marketing their webinars. But for the most part, what I see is one-off newsletter or one-off webinars that come up during legislative times, that come up when it's hot topics, but there's no consistency. Can you tell me what you're seeing?
Sure. So vendors will send out webinars all the time. Sometimes there's continuing education credits. Sometimes, a lot of times there's not. But these are generally, again, for legal updates when legislature meets and changes legislation, which has happened recently with what's required for structural integrity for condominium buildings. They will schedule, if there's new changes to insurance requirements, you'll have water remediation companies that'll have a webinar once at the beginning of hurricane season or mid-hurricane season. And so you'll have that ability to attend the webinar, but they'll send you one email. There's not really follow-up. And even if you go to that webinar, there's not generally another one later. They might do another one a year later, but it's not consistent. So we're all busy. We forget who we went to a webinar for 2 months ago because somebody else's came through the email.
Right. Well, and also from a CAM perspective, when you're on these webinars and there's other CAMs, isn't that a great opportunity to learn some of the questions that you may have forgotten? Because even if you're a CAM that works with a management company and there's 20 CAMs in the office, there's not enough time to catch up with your fellow CAM on a specific topic. So the webinars create a community even for you as the CAM to be able to see questions that may or may not have been brought up in your mind.
Sure. So the great thing about having a webinar that has, multiple CAMs involved instead of a one-on-one meeting is there's definitely things that are going to come up that are going to help CAMs in addition to the vendors. So, maybe I have experience in, one part of whatever the service is, and somebody else has had experience with something different. So we both bring our knowledge and our experience when asking questions about certain things, what problems we've had working with vendors, specifically what our issues are with turnaround time on getting bids. And in addition, the vendor is learning what we need as CAMs. What are we not able to find? What are we not able to get? What's the issue? Okay, is it's taking 3 weeks to get a bid back? Unfortunately, boards are generally volunteer. So a lot of times they come to you and they want a bid for a meeting that's happening in a week. That's difficult sometimes to get a bid. So as a vendor, you'll hear that information. If you're a landscape company, maybe, you do irrigation, you do pest control, you do the regular lawn maintenance, you do the annual tree trimming, but you're hearing from multiple CAMs in your meeting that their condos are asking, hey, what are our options for installing artificial turf, because it looks nice all the time, it's easy to maintain, you're not having to have a landscaper come out to deal with it on a regular basis. And so now as the landscaper, you're seeing, okay, a few years ago, artificial turf was not something that a lot of people did. You'd see it every once in a while. Now you're hearing, hey, most people are looking to at least get to see if it's something that they can plan to do in the next year or so. So now you might say, let's go get some education on this ourselves. Let's find out what we can do, what we can learn about turf. Is it something that we can start installing? And now you've opened up a new avenue of business under the same umbrella of what you already do, but you're going to bring in more clients for that type of a job. So it's good for both the vendor and the CAM, I think.
And when you are and help just educate on the decision maker, right? So we always want to market to the decision maker, which is ultimately the board of directors, but the CAM is an extension of a vendor sales team when that vendor is providing that quality service, when they have great communication, and when they have an affordable, a good price. Can you just highlight how that works, like how the board relies on you?
Absolutely. So as a CAM, when we're getting bids for projects, whether it's monthly maintenance like landscaping, pool service, or if it's a large job like a roof or a concrete restoration project or insurance, they're looking for us to get bids from several vendors and to bring those bids to them, and recommend who we feel is the best option. So obviously, price comes in to that for sure. But if pretty much the prices are all in line with each other or close, they're going to look for the CAM to make the recommendation of who they think they should choose. So as a CAM, it's important for the vendor to have a good relationship. And maybe we haven't been able to have a lot of one-on-one time, but if I've attended 2 or 3 of your webinars and I've heard about all of your experience and all the things that you do, and then I sent you the bid that I needed and you got back to me quickly on it, and I've checked a couple of references, you're more likely going to be the person that I'm going to recommend because I feel like I know you. I've established somewhat of a relationship just based on attending the webinars that you've hosted, even though we haven't necessarily worked together in person. So it is a way to get your name out there, keep it current, and become a trusted expert in your field with those CAMs that maybe don't have someone that they go to for that specific area of expertise on a regular basis.
And how often do your peers ask you for referrals of vendors?
All the time. I mean,
Right.
especially the CAMs that work in management firms. Most management firms, even smaller firms, have 20 or 30 CAMs in that office, and some of them have multiple offices. So, you've got a CAM that says, "Hey, listen, we're getting really high insurance quotes. I know insurance is crazy, but is there an agent that you can send me to that might be great?" Or, "Listen, we're looking for a lawyer that's going to help us get the fining structure for the fining committee together. And we need, a lawyer that can make sure that we're doing this the right way. Who do you recommend? Who do you use in your association? Pools, landscaping, everything." So we all talk to each other, and in the same, you say, "Oh no, don't use this person." So there are so many recommendations that we give to our fellow CAMs, I have CAMs that I don't work with on a daily basis, but I'm friends with, I've met through different things, I've worked with at different companies throughout the years. And when we get together or talk, we still talk to each other about, "Hey, who are you using for this now? Who are you using for that now?" So it's really important. And again, if your name's out there and they feel like they know you, they're more likely to give your name out to somebody else.
Yeah, I mean, just this week, I have a management company that's a client, and they asked me to bring in an EV provider, and for associations that want to put in EV chargers. And so I sent an email to Lindsay and 2 of my other friends that are CAMs to connect those dots. So by sending webinars or hosting webinars on a regular basis, and we recommend one every 6 weeks, you're creating a sales pipeline. You're creating people that registered for the webinar, but then didn't attend, like our people this morning. And I don't know where you're coming in from, but in Daytona, it's raining really, really bad here. So we understand that not everyone can make every meeting. And so you want to consistently have a rolling opportunity for these CAMs to connect with you, your team, and to learn about your services and to position yourself as an industry leader. But who's doing that follow-up? Is it your assistant that is already spread too thin? Is it you who really should be in founder mode and who should be, focusing more on, building the business and not the follow-up, where that's something that we can do. So I want to get into what our program is. We just went over the why, and this is now what we do. So we do it all. We put it all together. And Lindsay and I working together come up with the education for the vendor. So the program is $750 a month for one webinar every 6 weeks. And we do a 4-month minimum to show that consistency and to show the proven results. Expert Reserve Services is one of our clients. We just did a webinar for them. We did 2 in 1 day, same thing, the same format as we did today, where we had a morning and afternoon opportunity. They had about 60 through the day that attended. And through those 60, they got 4 reserve study clients, 4 associations that came in. They didn't have to drive. They didn't have to, all that their team did was tell me the day that they wanted to work, or they wanted to do the webinar. They told me the topics and we did the rest. So what is your message? What is your value add? A lot of times what we see is that the vendors get in the weeds and, they have topics that they've talked about over and over again. And if you have CE credit, if you are what is it? It's a
provider.
A provider through the Department of Business and Professional Regulation, and you provide CE credits, you have a course already, that's great. We can help you. We can also help you become a provider. That's a service that Lindsay and I offer also. But Lindsay, correct me if I'm wrong, CAMs don't necessarily take these education classes, these webinars for the CE credits. You have to have them, but you're taking them so that you have that vendor on in your mind, top of mind. They're there whenever someone says, I need an EV, boom, they know the business to go to.
100%. And as a CAM, your list of vendors is probably your most important tool, because no matter what association you're working for, they need a vendor for almost everything. So having a good list of vendors that you can count on and go to, they're good, they're going to respond, they're going to show up. That's so important, because if you can't get a vendor out to do a project, you're going to end up losing that client because they're going to go to somebody who can. So right. Yeah, I mean, again, a CAM's biggest and best partner are the vendors that they work with, because we can't do our job without the vendors that do all the projects that we need to get done at our properties. Yeah, thank you. Yes, and so Callan Group, working with CAMs for 10 years, we have the database of the CAMs in the state of Florida. So a lot of vendors want to segment counties, which we can do, or they want to target the entire state, which we can do as well. So again, we come up with the education with a little guidance from you, of course, but from a CAM and marketing perspective, we have a different vantage point. So we bring the opportunity to you. We say, this is what we think they need based on the time of year, based on the hot topics, based on budget season. And Lindsay, I want you to highlight that in a second. So then we come up with the dates, we schedule them out, and then we deploy. We come up with the graphic design, we create the flyers, we create the social posts, and then we help you and your team follow up. So we go into your Zoom, we find out who registered, we find out who attended, we have a strategy to follow up with them at that point. We take the webinar, we put it on your YouTube, we connect the dots, and we tell your story through the education that you provide. But budget season's pretty much now, right, Lindsay? Yeah. So the other reason why we decided to kind of do this webinar today and let vendors know the package that we provide for these webinars is because budget season starts now. It starts at the beginning of September, and this is when associations are going to be looking to get new pricing for landscaping and pool maintenance and things that are going to be their normal monthly maintenance items, as well as they're going to be starting to look at the projects that they're going to do in 2025 because they have to start budgeting for that now. So part of that is going to be some of the new statute requirements, which are requiring that anything that has to do with structural integrity of a building, a condo building, has to be reserved for. After the collapse of the building in Miami, you're no longer allowed to waive reserves or put things off. So they're requiring everyone to go to someone like Expert Reserve Services, get a reserve study done for the structural integrity, and whatever they are saying is due now or needs to be done in the next few years, their reserves are having to be fully funded. So for those larger projects, the money's now there. So there's no reason for them to wait on doing that because they've already had to fund it and they're required by law to get it done. And then regular projects, so whether it's resurfacing of a pool, a new landscape installation, redoing the irrigation, new insurance bids, a lawyer that you're looking to work with for something that you have coming up, maybe a fining committee is trying to get together their procedure, or anything. And now, especially with having to do these assessments for their reserves, they're going to be looking for lawyers that are going to help them lien properties, because you have owners that can't afford to pay these, potentially working on foreclosures, things like that. So right now is when you want to get in the ear of CAMs, because as they're putting these budgets together, they're going to be thinking about all the things that they're going to have to be getting bids for in 2025. So if you start doing your webinars now, you'll have 2 or 3 webinars in with these CAMs who will now feel like they know you. They know that you're an expert in your field. They understand what services you provide. They feel comfortable with you, even though maybe you haven't met in person, but they feel like they know you. And so when January, February come around after these budgets have been approved and they're starting to look for bids, you're going to be on their list of vendors to call. So that's why it's really important. Right now is the time to start putting the feelers out there, starting to promote your business to CAMs, because in 2025, they're going to be looking for vendors to do these projects. And even if they have someone that they work with, again, we have to get 2 or 3 bids. So maybe they decide that they like you better, or your bid was better, or you seem to offer better service for what they're looking for. And then you become their preferred vendor for that specific service. So now's the time, if specifically marketing to CAMs, where, this is when you want to get your name and your company out there.
And I think that just from working with so many CAMs over the years, it's there, and vendors, frankly, over the years, it's becoming more competitive. It's more expensive to be driving around and talking to these management companies, creating webinars. You can literally, I see someone from Orlando in here. I don't know where some of the other people are from, but we can, what a beautiful thing this technology is. And it really works for the CAM lifestyle, the day in the life of a CAM. They pride themselves in being educated and being the educator to the boards. And to be able to do that professionally, they need the partnerships of the vendors. So we hope that you guys consider doing webinars on a consistent basis and following up with the CAMs, because we know that it will yield great results. Hi, Diana. Hi, everyone.
You're just amazing. I love working with you.
Oh, you're so kind. I love working with you. This is the legal group that I said does a really good job on their webinars. I just saw one of yours come out. I think this week I saw an email.
I have another one coming out. I'm doing 2 board certs in September. So we have 3 this month. But
oh, wow. See, So then do you agree? Consistency is key.
I agree with everything you said. And the only thing that I would like to add for you guys that I messaged you privately, Diane, was that I feel that personally, as a licensed CAM as well, that budget conversations need to start in July. So that's when vendors need to really get in there with those webinars, because that's when the vendors have to get that into the line items for your budget to be approved in October. So by September, they're already like meeting. So you want to get in there first, like July,
Yeah.
August, September. The budget for my association's already, we're having a final workshop the 18th, and that's when we add the final stuff, if anything, and then we're approving it on October 6th. So
Wow. Yeah, well, you're on it. And that's the key. A lot, I think the vendors are I think people are overwhelmed, right? And if they don't have good team partners, all of a sudden it's mid-September and everyone's going, oh my gosh, we're in the thick of budget season and we've got to get going. Whereas with strategy and with consistency, all of a sudden, it's coming up 3 months from now. You're like, okay, what are we talking about 3 months from now? So, you have that timeline, but it takes a team and it takes professionals to be able to execute that. So they're lucky to have you.
And
All right,
I
guys.
just wanted to add too, like we're recording our right now. And when you all do the webinars, we are able to record them. And if a CAM is not able to attend, anyone who registered, or even to the list of CAMs who maybe didn't register, we can always send the video of the webinar out. And then if those CAMs think that you're someone that would be great for a project, they're also able to share that link with their boards. So
Right.
you have the ability to do the one webinar or the two that day, and if it'll reach more people than who was just able to attend live. They can all watch it later if they couldn't come to the meeting. So you still have that outreach to the ones that can't attend that specific meeting as well.
Exactly. Okay. Well, if there's any other questions, we'll say have a great day. Stay dry.
great job. This is awesome.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.